Hey everybody, Hunter back again from Showtime Studios. We're going to start on part number 35 of the build tutorial. In the last one, we did the base for our wood graining technique. We had the base color down, and then we did some of the Vallejo model wash over top of it to give us a little bit of variance and, kind of different textures and stuff and colors in the wood graining. So this time around, we're going to go in and add a couple little accents to it, and then we're going to do the final part that I do as far as the main part of the wood graining. We'll do that. So what I'm going to be using this time is this is the Vallejo model color, chocolate brown, and all I did with this was drop a little bit in the airbrush. I just used a toothpick and put about 2 drops in the airbrush. This is much darker than what we have down here now. And we're going to bring the airbrush over here. And what I use that for is to go in and do some, basically you're simulating some knots and just giving the wood a little bit of character. And I've got the airbrush, like I say, turned way down. And I got very little bit of paint in here. So let me get it set here right where I want it. And what we're going to do is we're just going to go in and very random, we're going to pick a spot that we want to put something that looks like a knot. And you don't want your dots to be the same. You want to make sure that you vary it a little bit. And it will take a while to build this up because you have very little bit of paint that's coming out of the airbrush. So it does take a little bit of time to do this procedure, but it's not hard. You can make some that's, more round. You can make some that are a little bit oblong. You don't have to do it on every panel. You can do it on some of the panels and not on others, so no big deal. But normally when I do this, I try to keep going with the grain because that's usually the way the knots are going to be flowing. And you can do some, heavier than others and make them a little bit darker. Basically have fun with it and be a little bit creative and, do what looks good to you. We're not trying to simulate any certain style of wood here. We're just free forming it and doing our own thing. So that's about all I'm going to do with that part. You don't want to overdo this part because that's when it kind of looks, again, manufactured, and you don't want that. You want it to look natural. So we're going to hold this up here to the camera and let you get a view of what we did. You can see the darker, blotches we put in. Some of them are more round, some of them are oblong, some of them are real long. Just kind of gives you a variance in it. And that also works good if you're trying to do weathered wood. Like if this was the back of an old pickup truck or something that had like oil stains or something like that in the wood, you can use the same technique for that and then go back over it. And it looks real good. But actually, this would be done on top of everything to simulate your oil stains. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to go over the whole thing with X24 clear yellow, and I use this because it represents a pine finish. Now you can go in and use several different, if I've got the one I'm looking for here. Yep, here we go. If you want to do more like a mahogany finish or something like that on the wood, you can use the X27, which is the clear red. If you want to do something, more along the lines of an oak or a golden oak or something like that, you can use the clear orange, X26. There it is. Well, playing with this camera again. There we go. Clear orange X26. Uh, that's normally the three that I will use on a wood graining technique. And when I do an overcoat, which is what we're going to do next, I don't really mix the three together. I will use one or the other. In this case here, I want to keep everything, pretty light, more leaning toward the pine side of it, I guess you could say, a softwood. So we're going to go with the clear yellow. And the other thing about the darker colors, the orange and the red, is whatever you do down here for a base and all of your accents that you put in, it's going to mute those a little bit more because it's darker. Now, the clear yellow will actually enhance all that and really show up real well. So that's what we're going to use. And let me go ahead. I'm not going to do a full clean out on the airbrush because I only put a couple dots in here. So I'm just going to spray out this brown that we had in the airbrush. I'm not going to run any thinner or anything through it because it's not going to affect what we're doing. I do have a video coming up on that. I've been asked about how I clean my airbrush in between colors. So that'll be a video that's coming up here soon. So now we're going to shake up our clear yellow. And this is a little bit thicker of a paint. All the clear colors are a little thicker. So we're just going to put a little bit of the clear yellow into the airbrush. You don't need a whole lot. And I'm going to hang the airbrush back here behind me so I can put the lid back on this bottle, because if I don't, I'll end up hitting it, knocking it over, making a mess, and then you guys are going to be laughing. Let's see. Then we're going to use, I've been talking about this a lot. I'll show you. This is basically from Walmart. Sandy picked it up for me. They keep changing, different brands and stuff, but this is a 91% rubbing alcohol. This is what I use to, clean in between acrylic colors. It's also what I use to thin down to my acrylics when I want to thin them. So we've got that little bit of paint in the airbrush. We're going to go in and we're going to thin that out a little bit with some rubbing alcohol. And you can use regular, just the standard rubbing alcohol if you want to. It's no big deal. The 91% is a little bit more aggressive. I think it works a little better, but some people don't. And what I do to mix this around in here is I'll just take my finger and put over the nozzle and pull back a little bit. Well, as soon as I get the gun opened up here, pull back a little bit on the trigger. And all to do is let the air pressure backflow. You can see it bubbling in there. And that will mix up the 91% alcohol and the clear yellow and make a nice mixture. Now, don't pull the trigger way back because it will make a mess. It'll splash everywhere. You want to very lightly pull it back and just till it starts bubbling. That mixes that up. We'll put the cap on. And then we'll do a test spray down here to see how it's coming out. Yep, a little bit too much. You don't want that. There we go. That's the pattern that we're looking for there. So now we're just going to go in and we're going to overcoat everything that we've already got down. So we're just going to start over here on this top side. And we're going to go in and just lay this clear yellow down. And again, you don't have to be dead even with this. It's one of those techniques that all you're doing is doing an overcoat. The clear yellow is transparent, so you'll be able to see through it. And you can vary, your sheens a little bit more doing this. You can put a dead even coat over top of it if you want to. It doesn't matter. Or you can go in and put it heavier in one area than you do in another. Now on the clear yellow, I'm a little bit further back because I do have it thinned out a pretty good ways, and I don't want to create air bubbles in it. If you get too close with 15 pounds of pressure, you'll create an air bubble in it, and that air bubble usually doesn't go out. And what happens is when the paint hits the surface, it kind of, the air pressure blows it to the side, and it creates air in it. and you don't want to trap that into your finish. So back up off the surface a little bit, and you'll be good to go. Now, I didn't set the stop on the airbrush this time. I'm varying the pressure on the trigger. Like I say, some areas I'm putting it down a little bit heavier, other areas I'm going a little bit lighter. So give it a shot, see which way works best for you. I'm going back over everything now with a pretty even coat. And the one thing about wood graining is there's no real wrong way, I think, to do it. You just have to pay attention to what you're doing, and just keep it in your mind what wood actually looks like, and that's what you're trying to simulate. So let's see if we can hold this up here closer to the camera, and I'll show you what it looks like now with the clear yellow over top of it. And that's what we look like as far as the wood graining. Now you have an option at this point. You can leave that as is and be done with it, as far as the wood itself, and just leave the natural, more of a flat sheen on it. Or you can go in and put a clear coat over top of this and make it shiny. I think in this particular case, I'm just going to leave this as is back here in the back. Now, when we get to the body panels on the outside of the body, we're going to put what would simulate a clear varnish coat over top of it. So we will clear coat what's on the outside. But what's in here, we're going to leave it just like it is now. So now that we've got all that spraying done, we're going to lightly go in and very carefully remove our masking tape off of everything that we have taped up here. And like I say, when you're removing masking, don't get in a hurry. Just very lightly pull it, and that lessens your chance of pulling any paint off. Um, you will have paint pull off from time to time. It happens to me all the time. Not as much as it used to. I've learned the tricks and the speed and the angle and all that stuff to pulling tape off. If you notice, like on this, I'm right on the edge of this wheel well that we have painted. I'm pulling back at a real sharp angle, and I'm pulling very slow, and it comes right off. It doesn't, and that was taped right over top of direct paint, so it didn't pull it off. So then we've got these pieces covering up around the edges here. We're going to go ahead and start pulling those up. And sometimes you have to get the knife and come in to get the edge of a piece of masking tape up. Knife works real good for that. And as you see, I've got it on the point of the knife there, and I'm just pulling it off with the knife itself. Just very lightly pulling it, not getting in a hurry. Take your time. When I was on the forums and stuff, there was a lot of guys that always, had trouble with pulling up paint when they were doing masking, and a lot of it's because they were in too big of a hurry, and they were using masking tape that was really not the right masking tape to use, and they just got in a hurry and they kept pulling up paint. No matter what you tell them, they just did not want to listen. So, but it's nothing to it. I pulled no paint off of there, and that was, as sprayed. We've done this whole series of stuff right here within the last 2 hours. So that shows you just how well, these products work. If you just take your time, you learn how to work with them and be patient. You can see the color change we have there between the wooden deck tan that we sprayed on the interior panels compared to the wood grain that we have in there. Now we're going to let that dry up a little bit. When we come back on the next video, we're going to go ahead and do some bare metal foil work. We're going to do these strips that go down through here with bare metal foil, show you how that goes together. So stay tuned for that. If you have any questions or concerns, leave me a comment on the video and we'll address it in the next one. Until the next time, this is Hunter from Showtime Studios, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.